Well, I got back to bare metal, and there is some non-rusty steel in here. So there's a huge welded line on the back there where they welded the big fat metal square plate on the top. I've gone through there, but largely because I went at it with the reciprocating saw, so that can come out. So my intention here, because the rest of the mount is actually good, and it's still, you know, intact, is to make up a bloody great big metal square, de-rust all this lot, zinc it, and then weld it around the edges, and hope that the rubber underneath is just not going to catch fire. I need to be careful with some of this stuff as well, because obviously I've got the electrics and so forth for the air suspension, so that'll need to come out of the way. Well, it's either that or I've got to drill the entire mount off, and to get the entire mount off I need the fuel lines out of the way, and yeah, it'd be a pain in the arse. So I think this is going to be the quicker way of doing it. So needle scaler went in first, and most of that down there is from the needle scaler, and then I got in there with the chisel, wood chisel, to sharpen the ends on them, chaps. They're great fun, these things. And a trusty Land Rover special tool, part number 1, the Church House Classics screwdriver. There you go. Silly arse. Right, there we are. I'm going to clean this all up now, put some de-rust on it, and then prepare the area so I can weld it. Once that's welded, I can put the wings back on. Now this wire is to do with the electronic speedo, and I don't know why. Runs along the top of the exhaust and everything, all the way across to the, basically over there. So it runs from here to over there. I'll have to do something with it. Something needs to happen with it. Right, I'm going to have a coffee, is what I'm going to do next. Oh yes. Have a coffee. Yes. Well, that's the viscous diff off. It's a struggle because I don't think the bolts have ever been apart. So they're kind of factory torqued up while it was on the bench. You need to get the mounting out, so the driver's side mounting. The gearbox will support itself, but I've got a jack underneath the sum. Gearbox mounting needs to come out, complete with the brackets that the mount goes onto, this chap here. You need to get the flange off. Obviously the prop shaft needs to come off. There's a brace that runs from the side of the viscous diff up to the engine plate. And then when you undo the 8 bolts around the outside, it will come off. And it drops off with the exhaust in place as well, which makes life a shit load easier. Standard exhaust down here. It is a catalytic converter setup. Let's go under here and show you what we've got here. Don't worry about the brown wire, that's to do with the speedo apparently. Yes, I'm going to sort that out. So there's the cat. Sorry, there's the cat. Meow. That's where the viscous diff goes on there. This is towards the front of the car. I did drain the fluid out. You'd be wise to drain the fluid out. So there's a fair amount of fluid to come out. But other than that, that's fairly straightforward. Just tough. No, it has been off. Look, it's got silicone all over it. There's no way with the factory put that shit in there. It should be a metal on metal face. I'll put some Hylamar on it when it goes back together again. Might be inclined to replace the seal in the nose of it as well. Before you undo the drain plug, by the way, always check you can undo the fill plug. Because if you can't undo the fill plug, then you've got a bigger problem than a seized diff. And while you've got fluid in there, you might be able to do something about it. Right. Oh, there's a washer, look at that. Hello, washer. Oh. Now, to get the diff out, I've got another diff here which has come from a P38. Exactly the same, but you need to press them out. There's a seal in the nose there. And obviously it needs a damn good clean as well. So I will press this out, give the casing a clean, and I have got another casing. There's the other casing. There is another casing for a classic, but the bearing's very, very, very stiff in it because it's just been sitting there in all the dust and the shit. So I'm not going to do anything with that one. I'm reuse the bearing and the casing that this one came with. This is the flange that came with the P38, and that's the housing for the P38. So you can see they're quite radically different. They're not interchangeable. Okay, but the actual component is. So that's the P38 version. Here is a classic one that's broken. It's got a cross on it, see? You'll see exactly the same. I say. Right, so I'm going to press this out next. They give the casing a damn good clean. I'll put it all back together again. Oh, well, I'm having a fun bastard day, I'll be honest. We've got Storm, Eunice, whatever you want to call it. Pain in the fucking arse. That's what I'm going to call it. Anyway, this morning, while I was working on LSE, all the lights went out. Power cut. So then they all came back on again. Then they all went out again. RCD didn't trip out, but it's blown every fucking one of my interior lights on the roof here, apart from one. Blown every one of them. It's also destroyed my radio, which just does that now. Piss flaps. I think I might be getting to the bottom of this. Either the kettle's blown up or it's taken a week to boil. I don't think I've got 240 volts. Which is why these aren't nowhere near as bright as they have been. And I'm wondering if that's what my problem is here. I haven't got 240 volts. Because that's just not boiling. I can't boil it. Let's do this viscous differential I've been painting up here, which is why all the cans are up here. Let's get all that lot out of the way. Right, got a new seal. Cortico. I love Cortico. Nice double rimmed seals. They've got the G on the end of the part number indicating it's OE spec, made in the United Kingdom. It just doesn't get any nicer, does it? So there is the seal that goes on the front of the front of the transfer box. So it's front and rear transfer box housings, I believe, and I think this is the seal that also works on the 230 and also the Borg Warner transfer boxes. So part number, according to the factory, is FTC 4939G. Like that. You see that? You can. But then it looks like the Cortico part number here is 155135. Interestingly, made 2.5 years ago. Okay. Now, getting these things out is never fun. They're always a faff. As are the axle seals. Now, a lot of the crap that was on the outside of this housing was actually wax. So I think someone had been very nice to this particular car, in that it had quite a lot of wax underneath it, but then it had kind of coated everything else with wax as well, all the mechanicals. So just scraping the remains of the wax off around the seal. The seal sounded like it was being interfered with. Right, that'll do that. And then, really, to release these things, what I tend to do is to bang one side down and towards the bearing. If I can get that in there. There we are, like that. And then lever it back up again. And it does distort it, and it comes out. They're a lot easier doing like that than any other way that I've found. Now again, just mounting upside down because I want to get the rest of this crud out of here. I don't want to be polluting the bearing that sits in there and is actually in good order. If you need to change the bearing because it's got play in it, then it's held in with a giant circlip. And they are available and they're not particularly expensive. Just try and get something that's half decent quality. Nice and clean. Look at that. Lovely. Right, old seal out. New seal goes in. Now, when this seal came out, it was probably a couple of millimetres below the surface. But how far down it goes is going to be dictated by the output flange, which is the box down here. Because the output flange has got this thrower on it, and depending on how far the thrower is out, depends on really where kind of you want the seal to be. I think that makes sense. If it doesn't, it will in a minute. Now, I haven't got a knife over here. Never mind. Right, let's pop the seal in. Painty McPaint face, greasy McGrease face. Oh, it's actually lubed up already as well. There is lube on the inner surface of the seal, which is quite nice. Right, let's going down. It's got about another centimetre to go. It's a fair way. I'm inclined to press it. Bollocks, let's go and press it. So what I'll do, if I'm going to press this, I'll just use something very, very, very soft, an aluminium like that, because I don't want to be distorting this. I'd rather mash that than this. So come and have a look. It's blowy and it's rainy outside. You can't even see me. Oh no. Oh. Past the series. Let's go into the container. I just put the bits in the container because I didn't have room to put it anywhere else. Right, let's have a look-see. So, let me set up. Right, so there we go. I've mounted the diff housing on top of a couple of spacers. I've put my little washer thing in there, and then we're going to pump. This thing won't need anywhere near a ton of pressure to push it in. But I'm not going to be distorting the seal or the flange that goes into the transfer box by doing it this way. And there it goes. As soon as I start picking up any... Right, there we are. The gauge just moved, so that's indicating to me that that's in. I don't want to go any further than that, so I'll release the pressure. There we go. It goes off. Probably could do it in a vise, but if you've got a press, it's going to make life so much easier. And these press things, I mean, I can't. This was about 150 quid. This press was. There's no real excuse not to have one. Flood it next door. Right, let's go and have a look, see what's going on with this, and then we'll check the flange. I know, I shouldn't, should I really? Right, here we go. That's gone in. Beautiful. There we go. Now flange. I'll really get that's all clean. Just wipe the arse face of it off because it had been on the bench. Nut off. Put the flange back onto over the fibre washer. To my mind, that is just, ow you fucker, touching the seal. Or so I'm going to push the seal down a little further. Now it's in, I'm going to have to use this. Box spanner does just about bloody everything on these. Let me just bang him down. Down. Try again. It's still just kissing it. I think because this seal has this big kind of lip over the outside of it, whereas the old one didn't. So, which is why it's having to go in further. So don't assume that it's in the right bloody place just because. That's, needs to go down a little bit on that side. Better. Right, that can go in there. That's better. It's cleared it now anyway. Right, I can't put the flange on until this housing is back in the car, which is my next job. I won't video it, but basically it goes on to the leading edge of the gearbox. I'll show you. I'm not going to video it because it's just like a load of shit. It's going to be me swearing that I have to edit out. You know what I mean, don't you? That's lob. The light under there. Oh. I'm using your lights as well, James. Just so happens that Dale's light is here first. Box. Can you see it there? You can see it there a lot easier. And literally, you've got these holes here. So I need to clean up the face around the edge, and then I need to position the 8 bolts around the edge, tighten them up, get rid of this fucking brown wire at some point because I don't know what it's there for. It's there for the speeder, but I don't know why someone needs to do that to him. And yeah, when I've done that, then the prop and everything can go back on. Nice. Nicey, nice face. Right, clean this edge up first of all, then I'll get it all back into place. I can put the radio on, and I don't have to edit all this nonsense out. Do I? Oh. Oh. Way up from down there, it really is. Oh, I can go in there. Very nice indeed. So I've got the viscous differential in. I've attached the prop shaft, just using a couple of bolts on each end. And I thought, well, I'll give it a quick test before we go too far down the putting everything back together again. You'd be wise to, especially when you're looking at used old stock parts or even brand new parts occasionally. So we've got transfer lever in neutral, high, neutral, sorry, low, neutral in the middle. We've got the gearbox in neutral for shits and giggles. We've got the handbrake on because the back wheels are off the ground. And then I need to brace one of the hubs because I'm off the ground. There we are, braced one of the hubs. And now I would expect to see this behaving itself. Fuck all. Absolutely fuck all. Oh, isn't that a delight? Oh yes, that is a delight indeed. God, I didn't fill the transfer box back up with oil again. It's all going to come apart again. What a fucking waste of time. So, yeah, I've messaged the seller because I bought this unit back at the beginning of January and we're now the middle of February. P38 viscous coupling, diesel or petrol, tested in good used condition. All have been tested and come with a 30-day warranty. Alas, we're past 30 days, aren't we? No, I mean that is literally sat boxed on my shelf until 2 days ago when I undid all the wrapping. There we are, lots of wrapping around it. Undid all the wrapping, gone through all the aggravation of putting it into the transfer box. And just to prove we haven't got a seized transfer box, I shall let the handbrake off. Handbrake's off. So we know that the transfer box is good. Okay, I can even put it back into park and into low and it will still seized with the handbrake off. So we know that the transfer box is behaving exactly as it should do. It's just this unit is as dead as the old unit. Right, cut out all that shit, welded a plate in on the end of the sill. Not my most beautiful weld. We've got real problems with power again today. Welders in and out like a bloody, I don't know. There you go, you work out what it's in and out like. But it's in there, it's solid, and it's also kind of sealed up the back end of the mount. Now, this piece here, I decided that I'm just going to replicate that lip and weld it back onto there again. Just butt it up to that, that's fine, that'll do nicely. It's all solid there, but there was just a hole along this edge. which I thought, well, having got this far, I might as well just weld that little fillet in. Then the only other bit of welding I have had to do, I welded that piece in over there. So that little hole over there's welded. I'll put the little fillet in here for the seal to go around. And I'm going to prime everything, seam seal it, and then I can put the paint on. And then this door can go back on. Well, forging forwards with progress on this thing. You can see the battery's in. Oh yes. And I've been going through, really connecting all the electrics up. As you can see, there's now a thick coat of Rust-Oleum on the floor. I shall put some Dynamat down, then the original floor matting needs to go back in. You can see really here, if I put that mat down, you can see the extent of the additional legroom that you get in the back of an LSE. These things are huge, and all of that extra space is given over to the rear seat passengers. There's no additional boot space, there's no additional space in the front of the car. Everything is for the back seat passengers, so very, very nice indeed. That's so nice, isn't it? Right, so all the electrics are in for the back door. I connected up the wiring and started testing through the electrics. The seat's still not working, and that's been one of the things that I'm going to do, like a little featurette on how to get these bloody seats out when the ECU fails, or the power to the ECU has failed. But first and foremost, I need to get the driver's door back on. And the main reason for that is that when I connected up the battery with fuse C7 in, the central locking and the alarm were just going loopy. It was just going click on, click off, click on, click off, click on, click off, click on. So I just connected that, and of course now the engine won't start. So basically, there's no volume, there's no power to the starter solenoid. Still no sign of the modulator. BBA Reman have said it's in hand. It's going to come. I've asked them to be honest with me and let me know if it's not going to happen. Little lights are in. These are the same headlights that I fitted into Diana. So while they've got the pilot bulb in the bottom, they've got the flat surface over the front. I need to wire up the pilot bulbs. Get those to come on at the same time as the side lights. Other than that, really, it's just been a case of going round, painting over the seam seal, and getting everything to a state where I can actually start putting the interior back together again. Crumbs. One of the things that doesn't come with the ABE front inner wings is the pins that hold the bottom edge of the side light in. So they want to be back here somewhere. And they don't exist on these wings. So I'm going to probably use just a threaded bolt and make sure that the indicator housing is big enough, because obviously then they can be adjusted to the right sort of length, etc., etc. All the clips and everything are going in, ready for the outer wing. I need to put the loom clips along the inside here to clamp the loom up. I managed to keep most of them. You can see the heater's on today. Need that, I tell you. I managed to keep most of these old loom clips. Very nice. They're all there, ready to go back. Yes. Cold. It's always bloody cold in this workshop. There's no point heating it, because, like, you know, the wind whistles through. You can see the gap between the door over there, look. Can you see the gap through the door? I don't know. Is the camera even on? I think it is. Fucking thing. There we are. Big gap through the door. It's a huge gap over there, but that door's not closed. Yeah, so it's just really a case of going around this thing. I'm going to paint this and clean all this area up. But really it's just a case of getting the thing looking tidy and back together. It's quite good fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying my job. I'm enjoying it. I've got all these stays in for the bonnet support, so that's all there. Just need to connect up the bonnet release mechanism and get that sorted out. Yes. Let's get these memory seats sorted out. So basically, well, the car's are parked because it's kind of going over a fairly kind of extensive renovation. The memory seats, however, are not working. Now, I've taken the casing off because I just wanted to check voltage to the pins and so forth, but ignore all of that. With the handbrake on, with the ignition in position 1 or off, in park, the seats should work, and they're not. There's nothing happening at all. Okay? Which is a pain. Because I can't get the seat out because the seat's right far backwards. So there is a way of doing this, and these are instructions that I've kind of found. And what you basically need to do is to find the harness under the back of the seat, which I'm going to come to in a second. But before I do that, I'm just going to take these bolts out of the front here, because when I slide the seat forwards, I want to undo the bolts at the back. And then I'll be able to get the seat tilted forwards or out of the vehicle, so I can actually work on what on earth is going on with the seat and so forth. Well, whoever's been here before has very kindly barely done the bolts up, which is good news. Now, underneath the back of the seat here, you're going to find the connectors which go into the ECU. You've got a big one here, which I've just disconnected because I didn't want any power going to it. And then you've got this one, which is all red and whites, and it goes into this one, which is green and yellows. Now, the green and yellows is the one you want to concentrate on, the blue connector. And I think it's the same connector whether you've got memory seats or whether you haven't got memory seats. Okay? So basically, what I do now is I've got power probe. Get one of these if you haven't got one. It saves a lot of sparks. And then all I've done is I've put a bullet connector onto the earth side of it. And if I find some way of balancing this, how can we do this? One second. Let me just get myself in here properly. Right, where are we? Oh, seat going back. So if I reverse that, so it's the top 2 pins now. Reverse this, I don't know if you can see. Yes, we're going forwards. Right, that's done it. I've got enough room now to get the 4 bolts out at the back here. And then I can get the seat tilted forwards and we can find out what on earth is going on with this. So this little fella, power probe, really very, very useful. So I've got the earth wire here, because obviously once I've disconnected all of this from the loom, there's no earth on it. So I pull that backwards to give it a negative, and I give it forwards to give a positive, and it's got nice lights in the front and everything. Not cheap, but well worth it. Then I'll save a lot of shitting time when you're diagnosing these problems. So I'm going to undo these 4 bolts now, tilt the seat forwards, and I'll come back to you. Okay, got the seat resting back. There's a load more room in these LSEs. This is a bastard of a job in a normal wheelbase Range Rover. But got the seat, so it's now upright, and I can see the ECU and everything. Now, this is kind of how I found it. So none of this is my ham-fisted Gibonly. This is someone else's. So whoever installed this bloody thing, I don't think they had the seat out when they installed it, because it's just all kind of hanging down, really. So I think what I'm going to do is just disconnect the loom, take the ECU out and just double check. I think it has been serviced here because it's got a date on it, it's a fairly recent date as well. So I need to find out from the customer who serviced it, and double check that it's actually not a problem with the ECU. And that it might be a problem just with the way it's been kind of installed, or maybe there's a fuse popped, I don't know. This one's a bugger to get apart. My fingers are cold. Come on, you bastard. I see it actually. Come on. There we are, it's off. Right, so that's the main loom out of the way, and then we've got one connector goes round over here. We've got this turn key which actually holds the ECU to the base of the seat, and this should be plugged onto that thing there as well. So it's just really has been, for want of a better word, thrown into the car. Right, so that's the ECU. So that was done 2019, March 2019. 25th of March 2019, it's my dad's birthday. There you go, you learnt something new today. And there's the original inspection here. So this was done on the 14th of August 1991, which predates the car. Look, date tested 13th of August 1991, so I wonder if it's car's already had a problem and it's had another ECU popped in. Right, I'm not going to venture any further into the ECU because I don't need to. What I will do though is probably a little bit less ham-fisted. I'll show you how this connector works and how my power probe works. Let me just connect it back up again. Now you heard it, Greek. Right, can you see? I'm working here. Yes, you can see. Right, so power probe. All it's doing is putting 12 volts through the end there. Now, if the circuit's already earthed, then there's not really a problem. But with the motors, because they go in two different directions, the earth will change depending on where you're going to go. So all I've got in here is, this is just literally a bullet connector, which I've just lobbed into the crop clip just to make life a little bit easier, stop sparks dancing around. Now, I will work on one pair at a time. All I'm going to do is put the tip onto the other pin and then activate. Right, so now I'll do the other way and it should come back down again. Look at that. Neat, huh? And then we've got this one here, which will, sorry, ham-fisted gibbonry again. Oh, you fucking bastard, come on. And then press the switch. It's tilting the seat back, look. And then the other way, should tilt it forwards. And then this one down here is going to, that was doing nothing. Might be because it's already at the extent of its travel. It is. And then we've got this one here, which does that one. So I know that all the motors are working. So the problem's either in the switch or it's in the biohazard that is underneath this seat here. Let's see what we can find down here. Oh yeah, sweet wrappers and everything down here. It's disgusting. Ugh. The things we find in these cars. What I'll do, I think, is go through, because obviously this thing's got air suspension as well, which is all this gubbins over here. And the air suspension ECU has not been fixed in either, as you can see. So there is a world of pain. In fact, there's a pile of screws over here. So I don't know really who's been doing what under here, but whatever they've been doing, perhaps they shouldn't have been. I'll put the ECUs back in and secure it all. What's that one there? That one is, so that's all air suspension on this side. So I'm going to go through and just double check all the various fuses, because it looks like everything has been yanked out of this thing at some point. And everything's just a real jumble. It's not. Front wings on. Woo! As is the sill cover. That's all done and dusted. Pretty much finished on this side now. Everything's all clipped back into place again. Got the cruise control pump thing is there. Really need to kind of just connect up the air filter again. I'll be done with that. The deck's not on yet because it's easier to put the wings on and getting everything lined up with the deck out of the way. And we've still got a conversation with the customer as to whether the deck is going to get painted or not. So, kind of to end this video off, Project LSE is grinding to a halt. Through no fault of mine either. So basically, waiting on the brake modulator. That fella down there. Waiting for that. That's a slave unit, just because I wanted to get all the pipework and everything set up. It's with BBA Reman. It's been with them for weeks, and they've not been able to find a suitable unit to swap it over with, which is irritating. I've got a seat ECU, which is why the interior is still apart. On the driver's seat ECU's failed. It was refurbed by a company called Avalek back in 2019. Can't get hold of them. That phone's just permanently engaged. I suspect they've gone broke. So I got one of these now that don't work. I'm going to have to take that apart or find an alternate solution to the seat. But until I can get that sorted out, I really can't do anything more with this car. And it's stuck in the middle of my workshop. Now No point putting the wheels on until I know what's happening about the brakes, because I can't bleed the brakes. It starts, it stops, yeah, sorry, starts, it goes. I've not put the bumpers on yet because I might need to put skates underneath it and swing it this way, swing it towards me here. The bonnet may well go on it, and it's just going to end up having to wait. Which is a bit of a pain, really. I hadn't foreseen the problem with that. And it annoys me because when you contact them and say, oh, I've got one of these, you give them the exact, oh, yeah, we've got one on the shelf. Yeah, send it back to us, we'll get that turned around. And weeks and weeks and weeks later, nothing.